For all our Dance Life television series fans out there, welcome to today's episode. Now, if you haven't watched the show, you can jump on Amazon Prime and check it out. Today, I am joined with one of the amazing cast members, Tiana Vassallo. Now, you may remember her as the girl who had the broken foot and the boot in the show and was out of dance for a couple of months in her full-time course, which was super stressful. And we talk about that, that injury process in this episode and what that was actually like. But we also discover so much more. She went from being a full-time graduate of Brent Street Studios to now becoming their creative intern post-production. So exciting for Tiana. She talks about her love for teaching and performing. She's working professionally on stage at the moment as a professional dancer, which is so phenomenal, but is also just as much excited about the prospect of her teaching career and working with Brent Street and really developing that side of herself. So both on stage and behind the scenes, we are going to uncover who Tiana really is. We also talk about her commitment, her drive, how she gets up every morning and just keeps going, She's not superhuman, she promises. She's, she does come off quite, resilient and quite a powerful human who just really has that grit for success, but she has her days and it's not perfect. And, Tiana's vulnerable about that and she shares that side of herself. And I just think it's really cool to have those open conversations. Tiana absolutely does that. She's so lovely and she's one of the superstars and cast members of Dance Life. So let's kick into the show. Hello and welcome to Studio Biz and All That Jazz. I'm your performing arts business coach and host, Josephine Lancuba. This show is designed to bring you inspiration, information, and the instruments you need to create and grow the studio biz of your dreams. I will bring you a mix of solo episodes as well as interviews where I tap into the minds of industry experts. My career started as a performer over 2 decades ago. I later became a speaker, theatrical producer, and talent manager, as well as having a successful teaching career in singing, drama, and dance. 10 years into my professional journey, I became a mama of 2 and with a baby on my hip, opened up my very own performing arts studio. From hardship and humble beginnings to 4 studio locations and a multi-6-figure performing arts biz, I know how to attract students and keep them coming back for more. And in the show, I will share with you my experiences to help you thrive and fast-track your path to success. I know you have a spark inside of you with dreams and goals for the future. As your coach and mentor, I'm here to help you step into your limelight and be a cheerleader in your ear each and every week. So get ready to be entertained and inspired as we talk studio biz and all that jazz. We have the amazing Tiana Vassallo on Studio Biz and All That Jazz today. I am so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Now, obviously, you are one of the cast and stars of Dance Life, which is the new television series on Amazon Prime. And we're so thrilled to see, the behind the scenes of what really happens in the dance studio life that isn't Dance Mums, right? Because it's a very different vibe and we're going to get into that. But before we do, and I know this is your first podcast interview, so I'm so humbled to be breaking you in on the podcast space, but let's kick off with a little bit about you. And I know in Dance Life, for all the fans out there that have watched the show, Tiana does deep dive a little bit into her background, but I would love for you to really share it in your own words again. How did dance start for you?
So when I was younger, I just was a very fidgety kid. So my mom decided to put me into baby ballet, as you do. Then eventually, as I got a bit older, I decided to take it more seriously. I had some problems at school, so I ended up really focusing on my dancing. I was never a kid that drank. I still to this day, I'm just haven't really got an interest for it. Like, never went to parties or anything. I was always in the studio, focusing all of my energy there. And I think through that kind of focus in that area of my life, I've really tried to pursue it as a career. And, as you see in the show, we've got some injuries, we've got some relationships coming up. There's a couple of things that we kind of experienced there. So, yeah.
I want to just sort of, if you don't mind me tapping into that whole, you say there was maybe a little bit of not fitting in at school.
Yeah.
Let's go to that, because I think it's really interesting. A lot of the people listening are teachers, performing arts teachers, they're studio owners. Let's talk through what that experience was like, what was happening at school, and how the classroom and dance really maybe supported that process of, hopefully having a safe place to land.
Yeah, of course. So at school, when I went into high school in year 7, I just really couldn't find a group that was fit for me. I had two girls that I felt really comfortable around. But other than that, when we were in separate classes, I really found it hard to fit in. So obviously I couldn't really relate to their experiences outside. So I think that made it even harder in the social aspect. I think that I am someone that loves meeting new people, and I'm quite open to that. But with this high school experience, with the change, going into a different school, different people, I really struggled. I did end up being bullied, which, it's very common, unfortunately. And, I'm not special for being chosen, being the picked on girl. It happens a lot, but it did get quite extreme. I did get some calls threatening myself to kill myself, unfortunately.
Wow, that's horrible.
Yeah, and when we went to the police, one of the girls, her dad was actually the head of the police station in the area, so nothing was done.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. No one deserves that. And it's difficult, because I do find, even, I've had a studio for 10 years, and I even find with myself, I also kind of didn't fit in. I think as well, when you come from a performing arts background, it's a different energy, it's a different personality.
Yeah, totally.
The jokes lie differently, every sentence is a song in your head. It's just a different world, isn't it? And I think it can be really challenging. What was it like then in the studio versus school?
Yeah, so when I wasn't going to school, I would stay home and kind of practice everything to the max. Yeah. So that was the time where I really saw improvement in my dancing, because I wanted to distract myself. And then I obviously got back to the studio and was getting rewarded for my hard work, which was great to see. And I think as a teacher now, I can see the kids that are like how I was, and can kind of, give them that validation and that credit that they deserve. So I think it's really rewarding in a way that I can flip it around now and provide that for my students.
Did you find that solace in the studio, in the sense, did you have relationships and friends in your studio, even though that wasn't happening at school?
Yeah, I did. I definitely did have friends at the studio. I think over that year, things started to change up in the studio. As I say in the show, the hierarchy of the lines. When I was not very good, I did have friends, but I could see the interest change between, those friends, and they really started to show interest and give me attention after I came back, having improved so much.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? The hierarchy of the lines. That can sometimes be a culture thing as well, like a studio culture thing. I just think that's insane, but that's just me. Do you value that system? And there's no judgment here. I'm just asking, in the sense of you now being a teacher, what's your thoughts on this hierarchy system now that you're a teacher yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely not. I try and eliminate it from the classroom, 100%. I think it's really important to notice those clicks as they're happening and just make sure everyone's involved in everything. Yeah, I think it's not, obviously, I don't think anyone means for it to happen, but it does. And, we need to be aware of it and make sure that it's not happening.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key, isn't it? When you're a teacher, and you can't be on top of all the things, but just having an awareness that there is the potential in these spaces to have those clicks and have these hierarchy. I mean, I've run a musical theatre studio for many years, and it's about the role. So, you know, if you're doing Alice in Wonderland, then Alice, right, is the lead, and so on. So it's about it's been a real process from when we first started, removing this culture of the role is everything and the leads don't hang with the ensemble, none of that. So we've actually really developed a beautiful space. But it wasn't overnight. We had to figure it out because we could see, especially like, you know, when I first started 10 years ago, you could see that happening. This is the lead role gang and this is the ensemble gang. And I just thought, nah, not having it. So we changed our policy. We removed like the auditions we organically chose through the program and changed it all up, which really worked. But I find it interesting that you've had that experience.
Yeah.
Look, you showed us and you just talked about how dedicated you are to your craft, right? You're very committed. No one can deny this, right? No one can deny that Tiana is a committed, diligent human. But I would be really interested to know, because I think especially with our listeners, you know, a lot of them running, you know, performing arts businesses and whatnot. Is this something that is just in you? Does this come naturally to you, or do you have some sort of a technique or something that you do to instill this continual dedication and motivation? Or is this a youth thing? Is this a young people thing? What do you think it is?
I think my parents really instilled it into us. Like, if you want something, you're going to have to work for it. So even like looking at my siblings and like their sports, we're all so committed to our like passions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So no matter what it is, like everyone in my family is like, I have to be the best at it. And I think, you know, I'm very much someone that takes those setbacks that I've received, like, and if someone tells me I'm not going to do something, I'm going to make sure I do it 3 times. Like, that's kind of my mindset instead of, you know.
And how do you like, is it just something that you, because I'm asking for me. Because I'm like trying to get my health on track here. And I'm thinking, oh God, get up, exercise, go box, do the class, do the thing. And sometimes you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, I don't want to. Like, does Tiana ever wake up and say, I don't want to?
Absolutely. I wake up all the time and say, I don't want to. You know, it is really important to listen to your body as well. There are definitely days where I'm like, do you know what? Today I'm just going to rot in bed. And that's okay. Because, you know, if you're mentally not in the space to make something happen, then you're going to associate that negative feeling with the thing that you're doing that you love. And I think it's really important, you know, there are times where I feel like absolute trash and go in the studio and it does heal me. But there are also times that I've forced myself in the studio and I'm not getting anything done. You know, that's when you have a high risk of injury. You have, you know, we don't want to burn out. We want to make sure that this is the thing that is stemming our fire and our fuel. So yeah, I think it is important to really listen to your body. I am definitely not being productive every day. Like, I can tell you that 100%.
Okay. Because I saw you as like, you know, the machine Tiana. But no, you're a human being. I feel much better about that. Thank you. So tell us let's talk about Brent Street Studios. And for everyone listening, if you haven't watched Dance Life, you must do it again. It's on Amazon Prime, but you know, it's really following the journey of a group of dancers and teachers who are working with a group of artists to get to their full-time course graduation. That's what it's all about. And it's set at Brent Street Studios right here in Sydney. Tell us about that, because I think especially with so many studio owners listening, like, what attracts someone to a studio like Brent Street? Why did you feel so attracted to that space as a student?
Yeah, so I think Brent Street has always been a goal of mine. When I was younger, I used to be so obsessed with one of their routines. It was called New Dorp, New York. And my parents knew that every day I would come home and watch it. So I'd be ready on the TV to go. And I think just watching them growing up, I've always been like, I want to be one of you. Like that's what I want to. I think Brent Street has such an amazing faculty, and it's like the energy that exceeds out of that building is just absolutely magic. Yeah, even when I'm walking through the hallways and I'm seeing all these people that are so relevant in the industry, it's so amazing to be surrounded by that every day. I think, that year and full time, it's really hard because we're all, we're still freshly 18, we're turning into adults, we're still going through that kind of growing up phase. And I think having all of those teachers there to be those mentors to guide us in the direction that we want to go in is really, really helpful. I think, going there for the past couple of years has been so, so good for me. I think there's a lot of, like I'm able to network at the same time as just absolutely training. And I think Cassie is such a great role model to all of us and such a great teacher. We learned so much from her over the past couple of years. I know all of us are so grateful to her.
That's amazing. And so really it's about being attracted. It's almost like it's got a buzz about it. So there's like, it's a celebrity status sort of place. Like you feel like you're working with industry people and you're getting the training you need to be a professional, and you used words like networking. So it was more about that, do you think? Or
I went there for an autumn camp when I was younger, and I just felt the buzz, and it was addictive. Like I wanted to be back there feeling that kind of same, It's also just the students, and like everyone's there with a goal, and everyone focuses in on themselves. And I think that's really inspiring to be around those people. I remember my first industry class at Brent Street, and I just remember looking around like, oh my God, like everyone's so focused on themselves and everyone knows what they want and everyone is so concentrated. That was really addictive energy, and I just wanted to be around it all the time.
I love that. So tell us about your journey with the studio. When did you join Brent Street? When did you actually get started?
Yeah, so I moved to Brent Street when I was in year 11. I did the Brent Street Academy course where I studied my senior years of high school. That involves 3 hours of academics and 3 hours of performing arts in a day. And then after school, I also did the performance training program, which when I was there ran on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. After I did my year 11 training, I started assisting. Mostly Cassie after school in the program, and I slowly transitioned into a teacher. I then continued my teaching and my year 12 academic life.
That must have been a challenge, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. I think for someone like me, it really worked for me because I know that I needed to get my schoolwork done in order to have all my focus on the performing arts side. So I was making sure I was at least 2 weeks ahead of school and submitting everything, and then would go to P2P and the BSA performing arts hours and really just smash it in there with the focus.
This is that dedication I'm talking about. Very good, Tiana. I love it. It's really inspiring, actually, because I know when people do take on these programs that, school and the arts, I mean, even for sports programs, there's all sorts of programs that are like it. It can be quite difficult to keep up. Hey, it's Josephine here. Stick around, this is a super quick break. Now, I just want to share with you that I am on socials and I would love to connect with you there. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I just recently launched on TikTok. I know, I'm super late to the party, right? But I'm there. So follow me and let's start a conversation. Now, on my socials, you can expect free informative industry content, great interview clips, plus inspiration, motivation, education, entertainment, and more. So let's connect. That's Instagram, Facebook, and or TikTok. Choose your poison. I'll pop a link in the show notes and let's connect on socials. See you there. Did you find yourself having late nights just trying to get it done, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I had so many late nights. I actually live 2 hours away from Brent Street, so I found on the travel I would do a lot of my work.
Wow.
So it was
That's a
kind of,
big trip. So you were doing that on top of everything else.
yeah. So in Europe,
Driving or public transport?
well, when I got my license, I started to drive a little bit more.
Yeah.
In Europe, and I was definitely on the train like every day doing my work.
Mm.
And there was one other girl that lived down here, so we used to like carpool. But yeah, it was actually kind of good because that was my time to focus on my academic work. As
Mm.
I moved in full time, obviously I met Tom and he was living in Kingsford at the time, which is only like 10 minutes down the road. So we stayed there quite a bit, which was a
That
lot.
was handy. That
Yes,
was
it was a
handy.
lot
Tom was
easier.
super handy. You know, it's really interesting, I think, because as a parent, I'm wondering, and I know especially we see it so often in the studio environment where parents don't always prioritize the arts over academics and they don't value it the way that they probably should or could. What was it like having this, you know, creative focus in your family environment?
Yeah. So when I first started high school, I was like top of my like grade. I was like straight A's. My parents were really, really pushing that academic side. But I think they slowly saw that, you know, dance is what I wanted to do. And when I was in year seven, that's when I made the move to my first performing arts high school. They let me move. I think they were more worried about the travel, to be honest.
Mm.
My school was in Broadway. It was called the Australian Performing Arts Grammar School. So it was still a proper like school. Like there was a building, and you know there weren't many kids in there. There was only 20 of us in our grade. But fun fact: the kid Leroy was actually in my class.
Oh,
So
no way.
yeah, we all like were quite driven there, which was a great environment as well.
Do you
And
still
I
speak
think
to Kid Leroy?
not as much. I think he's really far out of reach right now because
Yeah,
he's doing so well, but yeah, he's doing great.
he's like
But
on another planet at the moment.
literally.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, you know, seeing my parents also seeing how hard I was working, they knew this is what I wanted to do, and they were so supportive of it in the same way that they do with my siblings as well.
Yeah, that's really beautiful because a lot of parents aren't. I mean,
I'm
I was
very,
even watching Australian Idol the other day, and one of the guys on there, TJ, he was the guy that was doing the rapping and all the bits, whatever. And they, you know how it's a television show, right? And we're going to get to that with Dance Life because we're going to talk about behind the scenes in a sec. But it's a television show. And so they get you to make the phone call to the mum and go, hey, mum, I got through. You know, I got through the audition. So he does it because that's what the producers want him to do, obviously. Calls his mum, and his mum's like, that doesn't mean you're going to drop out of school, does it? And it's recorded and they aired it. And he's like, ah, ha, 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 that's mum. And I'm just thinking, that's actually the reaction of a lot of parents. They don't get it, you know? So the fact that you have that support is absolutely beautiful. Now, like I said, we're going to get into the behind the scenes, right? We want to know the juicy stuff here. Tell us about the reality of filming and
yeah.
what your days really looks like in this process, because we know we're editing this episode, right? This short episode. What does that episode actually take from a cast perspective?
Yeah, so I think Dance Life is quite an accurate representation of what happens within the space of Brent Street. There were definitely, you know, times where I was like, oh, I don't want to be mic'd up today because we're going to be rolling on the floor and it's going to hurt my back. But other than that, honestly, the producers and directors were so respectful of our time, so respectful of us as humans as well. But in saying that, they always got everything on camera, like whether we wanted it or not, they were there. But yeah, honestly, nothing is planted. It's all just, they were just filming. They just said, go along with your lives and we'll film. And I was like, sure, if I don't have to do anything, go for gold.
Was it like a bit grueling the hours, or they just literally did it in the classroom environment, or did you have to do like extended days or anything like that?
Not really. I feel like it was all kind of within that time frame, especially for me. I had work after full time, so I could never really stay back and film anything. But yeah, like there was maybe one day after where they were like, we just want to film you practicing your solo. I was like, okay, sure, that's it, like not a
Yes.
lot.
We should talk about when they filmed. It was you and Tom, wasn't it, where the incident happened with your leg?
Yes.
So watch that episode, everyone, because it's horrific to watch as a performer, to see someone like break something or injure themselves in that way. And obviously they've done it quite dramatically to the blackout, you know. But goodness gracious, what happened with your foot or your leg, and are you okay?
I'm great now.
Mm,
But at the time, I just landed incorrectly and, you know, I was a bit silly. It was I my foot rolled twice before filming that take. And I was like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. We did it one more time. Before we before I broke my foot, we did it one more time and I stopped halfway because I can't remember what happened. But I just remember thinking back and going, oh my God, that was a sign. Why did I do it again? And everyone's like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And I was like, no, we're doing it again. And we did it
oh
again. And
wow, okay, so you pushed it.
yeah, I just landed
Mm,
incorrectly. I fractured my foot. Um, yeah, and then I was out for a really long time. I think mentally that really messed with me. I
yeah.
found it really hard to, be determined because I was like, I can't do anything. And I think because I am someone that danced every day for the last how many years, I had so much adrenaline and I didn't know what to do with it. So it caused my anxiety to really flare up during that time.
Mm.
Um, I think I was still trying to do stuff, but I found it really hard because, obviously I was up all night with anxiety because I hadn't burnt off any energy. And then the next day, I just felt like I couldn't do anything. Like I was exhausted, even trying to watch those classes. Like, I think having the time to finally stop, it's like when you work for 30 days and then you have one day off and you get sick all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like, I was sitting down in these classes and I was struggling to stay awake because I was so drained from the night before of so much adrenaline.
What did that injury teach you? Was there any lessons that came from being injured and being out of action? For how long was it?
It was like 2 months, I
Yeah, a
think.
good couple of months. So that's quite a long time, especially when you're in a full-time course. You're dancing every day. You're on a television show for dance, and so you've got all this opportunity in front of you, and it can literally feel like in that moment sometimes it's it's all being taken away from you almost, even though it's not, but in that moment it can feel that intense. So was there anything that you learned from that experience? I mean, you said you should have listened to your body. I think that's a really important thing. What else?
I think it's really important to listen to your body, whether it's injury, whether it's mentally, whether it's, just how you're feeling. I think it's so important to really listen to your body and what it's telling you, and you need to do these things that are going to strengthen your body. So, since I've been going to Pilates so often because I feel strong and I feel like my balance is so much better and all these little things that help, not only in the dance world but also just everyday life. I think being injured gave me a lot of time to think and really set the goals that I want to be doing coming up. And I also think it was a sign to like be like, whoa, you need to stop for a second because you're going at a million miles per hour and it's not sustainable. And, I think I'm someone that constantly is busy and I constantly want to be doing something. But I think it's also important to have that time to like go, whoa, 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 like chill and just
Yeah.
be, you're still a human. You need to focus on your human side. I think over that injury period, I really discovered who I was as a person, as opposed to as a dancer.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because we often connect ourselves to our skill as who we are. Even as like an entrepreneur or business person, it's really, sometimes you have to say, if I didn't have that, who would I be? So it's about finding that out. And I think that's a really important lesson as well. And especially for someone so young to already start thinking about those, who am I if I don't have this? And so that's really quite powerful. Let's talk about the difference between before the show and after the show. But first, how long since filming Wrapped did the show actually get released? Because it might have been a couple of years, right?
So yeah, we wrapped at the end of 2022 and then it came out at the beginning of 2024. So, watching that back, I'm like, wow, I've evolved so much. Like I'm proud of who that was, but I'm also so happy to be who I am today through that experience.
Yeah. And tell me about that. So, life before dance life and life after dance life and the in between, because obviously, once you graduated, okay, what happened next in your career versus the show gets released? And then what happens after that? Was there any acceleration or opportunity? Like, I'd love to hear from after graduation, that little gap between the actual release versus then dance life hits the screens.
Yeah, so after I graduated, I was very lucky. I've booked a couple of corporate jobs. And I am also currently in a show at the Opera House with Tom and Erin. It's called Gatsby at the Green Light. So we've been contracted on that for a couple of months before Dance Life came out. And then, we're still in the show when Dance Life came out. So it's really cool to see like at the beginning of the show, we serve people and they're like, oh my God, you're from Dance Life. And I'm like, oh my God, this is wild that you like know my life. I think it's so crazy. I also am currently in the role of the creative intern at Brent Street. So Lucas and Cassie have taken me under their wing and, they're teaching me all of the things on the creative side, learning how to teach the correct way, learning how to communicate with kids to get the best results, learning all that stuff, how to call a show, creating and, choreographing and the little tricks and tips as to how to get the best work out of me, which has been really fun. I love it. I've really found a passion for teaching, which I always knew that I had, but I think, really putting my focus into that has been great for me. I've enjoyed it so much. And yeah, that's pretty much life before dance life.
So what about that? Let's speak to that because you're it's so interesting. And I love that you've just said that you have a passion for teaching and that is actually one of your core interests aside from performing. Because, there's such a stigma around this, when people graduate, those who can't teach, which I call BS on, right? I call BS on that. There's a particular type of person. Look, that can happen to somebody, but we shouldn't be saying that if you go and teach, then somehow that means that you didn't make it because that's a choice. Teaching is a career, it's a choice. And I find it really interesting that people will be trying to make it for 20 years. And I have people I'm 41. I have people my age still trying to make it, right? And God, what does make it even mean? But trying to make it. And they'd rather wait on tables than go and teach a class. And that doesn't make sense to me. Like, wouldn't you rather be in the arts and at least be surrounded by the joy of it? And then when opportunity arises, sure. But let's speak to that. So how flexible is it for someone to be in a teacher's role and then take on a show like, Gatsby, for example? Can you see those two worlds coexisting? The performer, Tiana the performer versus Tiana the teacher. How does that work for you?
Yeah, so I think because I'm so passionate about it, I make it work. So during the day, sometimes at the moment, I'm not really doing much afternoon teaching because my call time is when classes would normally start. But during the day, when I'm teaching at Brent Street, it's so fulfilling to me. And I'm so passionate about getting those kids to where they want to be and, achieving their goals. So I think it really works for me. And then, yeah, going after teaching, like, isn't that just a dream? Like teaching all day and then going to a show at night and doing a double show. Like, they're my two, teaching and performing are my two biggest passions. And it's such a blessing that I get to do both. I think coming back to, people prefer to wait and instead of teaching, I think, you know, it's important if you are going to teach that you are passionate about it because you'd prefer someone passionate rather than like just thrown in there because you're doing a disservice to the kids. And at the end of the day, if you're a teacher, it's about the kids. You want the kids to be 20 times better than you were. Correct your mistakes through them, make them the better version.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right, we want teachers who want to be there. Just like we want students who want to be there. Like it's you've got to be in it, and that's the truth. So before we wrap up, because I've absolutely loved this chat with you, tell me, how do you define success?
Sure, I think this is a really hard question because, we get little spurts of success here and there, but especially in the performing arts industry, I feel like we're never fully happy with how we've done. So, getting that email saying you've booked the job, I'm like, yes, win. Next one, you're in the rehearsal, win, performed, win, now what? Do you know what I mean? So those little spurts of those little wins on the way, I think, we really need to look and go, wait on, I've done all of this. And anytime I'm doubting that I am being successful in what I want to do, I always think to myself, a friend told me this a while ago, and I just always think back to it. If you told yourself 3 years ago today that you're in the position that you're in now, how proud would you be?
Mm.
And I think, especially I see it all over TikTok, like I'm doing it for the child in me. And I look back at those videos and go, that's who I'm doing it for. She knows what she wants. Even though she doesn't, she does. And, when I'm doing those jobs and things like that, that's what I define as success, is making my childhood self proud.
Oh, that is so good. I'm reading a book at the moment called Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Anyway, such a great read. And actually, what you just said really speaks to that because it's true, especially in the arts and in an audition culture and a selection culture and a rejection culture. You do the gig, okay, you go for the audition, boom, I got it. Yes, success. You go to the next step, boom, got the job. Yes, okay, great. You're in rehearsals. Yes. Then you're on stage. Yes. And then it's over. And then all of a sudden it's like some people get wrapped up in that so heavily and it can be really destroying to their soul, and they get very down on themselves, even though they've just had this amazing experience. And sometimes we forget that. So
Yeah.
speaking to our inner child is such a good lesson because, it's true. If you think back like on your life, 10 years ago and you go, wow, this is where I've come. It's actually quite a magical process when you go through that. So I like that one. That's different to I asked that question to all my guests and no one has ever said that one. So there you go. Very unique. Love it. Who or what inspires you most?
I think over the years, I've had so many mentors that have instilled so many things into me. And I've always been one, like, I'm such a fangirl. It's actually embarrassing.
Mm.
But, taking those things from them and like just applying that into my life. So, Cassie obviously is a huge inspiration to me. Matt Lee, he trained me for a couple of years. And honestly, I just adore him. He's so good at what he does, and he's such a great teacher. My family, like everyone in my family, is so determined. And I think, when I do have those days where I'm like, I don't wanna, I look around and I'm like, that's okay because, we can focus on other things sometimes, and that's all good.
Yeah,
Um,
and I like that. And for anyone listening that doesn't know and hasn't watched Dance Life, Cassie is the teacher that is really focused on, the teacher and choreographer really, that is focused on in dance life. She comes in quite hard. So she's got a very assertive nature in her teaching, but gains the respect of the room. So it's a very interesting dynamic there, you know, because it is firm. You got to admit that there's a definite firmness in that style. But everyone just seems to love her. Is that the feeling that you get? Like, is that the general consensus across the classroom?
Yeah, she's great at what she does. And I think looking at her success, like she knows what she's doing. And, you know, now being on the other side, I can see why she uses these methods to get the results because, you know, she's teaching me how to teach now. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense, you know? So I think it's good to kind of see the other side as well. She's so good at what she does. She's one of the best teachers I've ever had. And yeah, definitely. We all have so much respect for her.
Yeah, that's cool. And finally, before we leave this conversation, what's next? What's next for Tiana? What's on the cards?
What's next? We're just submitting for all of the things, waiting to hear back on a couple of things I'm on hold for.
Like auditions and things like that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Tom and I are going to go to LA for a month, I think, just to get out of here, you know, have a good time over there, get some training in, go to Disneyland because it's like my favorite place in the world. And then, yeah, just working hard, staying in this creative intern role, which is great at Brent Street, and really just focusing on, you know, not only my passions, but also growing as a human at the same time.
So you and Tom are still going strong then?
Yes, we are. We live together.
Confirm?
All confirmed. Yes, we live together.
How was he when you like? Was he seemed really genuinely supportive. I thought that was quite nice because sometimes, you know, especially when you're both from the same world, you just don't know how that lands. But he was genuine, like trying to look after you and stuff. And you had so many stairs to your apartment. That was mental, I thought. But yeah, I mean, how was he through that whole foot-breaking scenario?
Yeah, he was really supportive, and you know, that's just who he is. Like, he's so supportive, he's so chill. Like, I need to take a card out of his book because I need to just like chill out. But yeah, he was great the whole time. He's so
Is he working at the moment as well? Has he got on the flight?
He's in Gatsby as well.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Very rare, but it's that we're both on the same contract, but it's so good. We're trying to get our TikTok game up, so on those TikTok trends.
Oh my goodness, TikTok. Okay, so I'll have to speak to you another time about when I hit pause, we'll talk TikTok. But honestly, I am 41. I don't TikTok, but I'm about to start, and I'm so excited because I'm like, you know what? I'll launch my TikTok with you guys. I'm like, I don't know if this content is relevant or how people chat on TikTok, but I'm just going to like share some little snippets of our conversations and like speak to that a bit. There you go. Will that work? Is that a thing? You know, because I'm used to Instagram and Facebook, but I haven't been TikToking.
TikTok is just like, it reaches so many more people because, you know, if you're not following someone on Instagram, it's very unlikely that it's going to come up on someone's feed. But I think because TikTok is across so many countries and there's just one page that you're swiping on, it reaches like a couple more people. So get onto it.
I'm doing it. And you know what's funny? It's in my literal, like I have an action plan list every week. I'm very diligent in that. But I'm like, next week is TikTok week.
Love it.
So watch this space, everyone. It's all happening. All right, rock and roll. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. I've honestly had the best time chatting to you, and everyone get onto your TikTok because it's going to be so good.
There you go. You heard it here first. Oh, thank you. Studio owners, would you like to be able to offer your students and community opportunities in film, television, theatre, commercial, on stage, in musical theatre, and more? Well, you can. Right now, most studios receive auditions and opportunities via email, but they don't really have a strategy around it. They don't have an in-house talent management service. They certainly don't receive any kickback or revenue or commission from the bookings if their students book the gig. They simply flick the email to the talent and say, hey, here's the audition, go for it. But what if I told you that you could actually make talent management a strategy? You could turn it into an additional revenue stream. Not only can it increase your studio's revenue, having an in-house talent management service or talent agency, but it can also increase your student retention and your industry credibility. Now, for a limited time, I am offering myself up, yes, offering myself up on a platter to show you the ropes when it comes to how to tangibly create an in-house talent management service. I am the creator of the world's only course that teaches studio owners how to go from studio owner to talent manager. Right? This is a world first. I've been doing it for a couple of years and no one else does it because, it's breaking the glass ceiling of the entertainment industry. It's making the arts and professional industry accessible. Not everyone wants that, but I do. So I'm an advocate for artists, I'm an advocate for talent, and I want you to be able to provide those opportunities, but also make it an opportunity for your business. So, Talent Manager Bootcamp doors are not currently open. However, I am offering myself privately through one-on-one coaching through a Talent Manager Intensive. This is a 3-month coaching process where twice a month for 3 months, you will get me as your one-on-one coach online. The schedule is your choice. You book through my calendar, super easy there. You'll also, for a limited time, get the lessons, the pre-recorded lessons of Talent Manager Bootcamp. So you get me one-on-one and you get the pre-recorded modules of Talent Manager Bootcamp. Within 12 weeks, you could be operating your very own in-house talent management service. So what are you waiting for? Contact me now. I'll pop a link in the show notes to my emails. Shoot me an email. It's hello@josephinelancuba.com, or you can book a free 15-minute discovery call, have a chat with me, and let's nut it out. Let's have a conversation. Ask me all your questions and away we go. Go from studio owner to talent manager. It's totally possible. Create your dream studio today. This episode was brought to you by my signature group coaching program, Studio Biz Success, an amazing and accessible online educational platform for performing arts studio owners designed to help you grow your business with confidence and get your results. Check it out at josephinelancuba.com along with other great industry resources to help you leap into the studio biz you deserve. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends. You can tag me on social media at Josephine Lancuba and give it a review. Your support helps the show to grow so I can continue to provide you with useful, informative content. I'm Josephine Lancuba, your biggest cheerleader. Thanks for listening and shine bright.